I actually don't know if there's another part of the body that makes me realise that I'm getting old other than my feet. And I'm sure you all feel the same. When your feet hurt, they really, really hurt. And I haven't been able to wear heels since I had my children. And I used to be able to run a marathon in heels. So I want to know why. I want to ask the question. So I have here with me James Dooner from the Foot Collective. He is the foot man. He is the man that knows everything about feet. James, it's so great to have you here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great. I can talk about feet forever, so I'm very excited to be on.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. Tell me, they probably are the thing that we take most for granted, aren't they? I mean, you're so lucky to have a pair to start with, and to keep use of them throughout our life. As we've learned over the Aging Project with lots of our guests, mobility is the most important thing, and it all starts with your little piggies, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the feet are our foundation for movement, and unfortunately, they do seem to be the most misunderstood and mistreated part of our bodies in today's day and age. And most people they tend to get ignored until they start hurting. And when they start hurting, you absolutely cannot ignore them because you need your feet for pretty much everything you do throughout your day. And that's one of the most common things I hear from my clients and our customers as well, is that they just didn't even think about their feet until now they're thinking about it every day, and it's always front of mind. And that's a big reason why, like, going through my physio career, going through uni, we learnt very little about foot health and foot function, and going through, treating people in private practice and doing chronic pain rehab programs, I realized that no one was really even thinking about their feet and how that would affect other areas of their body. So that's a big reason why I got into it all.
So really, even from the start, even from going through the education process, feet wasn't something that was top of mind, even in uni?
Not really. No, they kind of leave that to the podiatry courses, I suppose. And, they give you a general understanding of the anatomy and the physiology of the foot, but they don't really delve into how to treat foot issues, really. And even, this can be a little bit controversial, but I think even in from what I've heard from my podiatrist friends, their university courses don't really delve into much in the sense of active approaches to foot health. It's more about how to support the feet with orthotics and cushion shoes and those kinds of things, which certainly has their place. And I'm not here to bash on orthotics or podiatry at all, but I think where we come from is that we don't think anyone should be fully dependent on an external support for their feet to feel good, or for any body part to feel good. An analogy I like to use is, if you hurt your back, you might want to spend some time not moving it as much as you usually would, not doing backflips and stuff, but, keeping it relatively still. And an extreme of that might be a back brace, or say you break a bone, you might need to put that body part in a cast for a certain time. But you don't want to be in that brace or that cast forever. You want to be able to move and strengthen and mobilize that body part. And I think we kind of intuitively know that for the rest of the body, but our feet, for some reason, there's this overall view of them that they are weak and fragile and they need constant support from external things like shoes and orthotics. So that's a narrative that we're trying to change.
Isn't that crazy when you say it like that? The last thing you want to do for a ligament or whatever it is that is injured is keep it still. And yet we bound our little feet up day in and day out. And they weren't designed that way. If you look at it, I mean, yes, I'm now astounded that we haven't thought about this before, that bare feet is the way to go wherever and whenever we can.
Yeah. And I think, it's important that our tagline, it's actually written on the back of my shirt, is shoes optional. And there are contexts where shoes are really important. Like, we want to protect our feet. They are very important structures, and we want to protect them from things like sharp things or hot things or really cold things in the environment that might damage them. And that's why footwear exists, really. But throughout the history of footwear, it's become a lot more about fashion than it has about function. And, that's where you get shoes that are super, heeled. High heels are a great example. They're really heeled, they're narrow, they're rigid. They put your foot in a completely unnatural position. And most people kind of get that, and they know that when they wear heels or dress shoes, then their feet hurt and they feel really uncomfortable. But what most people don't realize is that a lot of modern shoes, even the sort of healthy running shoes and things like that are touted as the good shoes, they're actually doing the same thing, just on I guess to a lesser degree, but they're still restricting the natural movement of the foot and also the natural sensation. Most people don't think of their feet as sensors, but if you look at the brain, then the feet have a similar representation in the brain as your hands and your mouth and your eyes and your ears and nose and all of these really important senses. And so they actually, they need movement, but they also need a lot of stimulation and like sensory input to be healthy. And so, yes, bare feet are great, and wherever you can and wherever it's safe, it's great. And then wherever you can't, then working towards being able to wear shoes that are wide and thin and flat and flexible, and shoes that allow your foot to function as close to naturally as possible.
When you say it like that, as you say, we feel so much through our feet, and I never feel more connected, in inverted commas, than I do, say, when you're at the beach, in the hot sand, or you've got grass under your feet. It really is that sense of coming into self that you get from having bare feet. And why do we deprive ourselves of that so often? I know it's not kosher to, not wear shoes in the workplace, but I think this is something we're going to have to change.
Yeah, well, in my workplace, it's very kosher, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's a couple of points to that. Like you said, that our feet aren't built to be in shoes all the time. They're helpful in certain contexts, like I said, but getting out, being barefoot in nature is probably one of the most natural and healthy things that we can do. And in one sense, there's the physical explanation to that, which is it's referred to in the barefoot community, I suppose, as vitamin T, which vitamin texture. So your feet actually need textures, different textures like grass and sand and roots and logs and things that actually sort of give them the sensory stimulation and also get all the joints moving. There's 33 joints in each foot, and the feet actually hold a quarter of the bones in your body. So there's a whole heap of stuff going on there that they actually need a lot of movement. The only reason for a joint to exist is for movement to occur. And so getting out in nature, stepping on different surfaces, different textures is like the key way that our feet get all of those little movements that they need.
So bottom line is our feet were designed to move in all sorts of different directions, in all sorts of different ways. And it doesn't mean you're out there climbing trees any instance, but our evolution, our feet, the bones haven't become fused. We haven't got less bones than we ever did before. They're still there to be moved around.
Exactly. And, a caveat that I always want to say, like I always need to get across, is that if you do have very painful or stiff, sore, weak feet from years spent in shoes, supportive shoes and orthotics, then going straight to barefoot and doing a heap of barefoot movement and going out for barefoot walks and runs might be too much for you if you'd go straight into that. And so building up gradually is a really key practice. And I think a perfect place to start is like 5-10 minutes walking around on grass in a park or something like that. It's a very gentle surface. But over time, you can build up to pretty much all manner of things. Like I go out on my hikes and, creek hops and things like that, all barefoot. And I'm constantly amazed at how much my feet can handle, how much load they can handle. But I didn't start there. I built up gradually. And I think that's a very key point, because a lot of people feel that going barefoot or going in sort of barefoot shoes isn't for them or isn't good for their feet, and that's because it makes them hurt. But actually, the pain is a sign that they've just done too much too soon. And if they bring it right back, then and build up gradually, then the feet will adapt and respond just like any other body part.
Our feet have gone soft in evolution, haven't they? This is not cool, and we are here to change that today. So as you say, going just all in isn't going to do anybody any favours. Luckily, the Foot Collective has come up with ways that even if you are stuck in an office day in and day out and you do have to wear your shoes on public transport, that there are things that we can do even sitting here like we are today having a podcast that are going to help our feet and, of course, get us to a place where perhaps it's going to help with all the other ailments that we have going on in our body, whether it is sore backs, shoulders, necks. It's all coming from the feet. So, James, all right, we've done our 5 minutes in the park on nice soft turf or in our yard on nice soft ground. What else can we do to get our feet ready for more action?
Yeah, so, that starting with that very gentle movement like walking, soft place is a great place to start. We've got a few tools that we like to, you could think of them as a progression. So wild toes, I'm actually wearing them right now. So that's just a toe spacer. Basically, long story short, narrow shoes will squish our toes in together like this. And what they should be like is splayed out like that. And that's really important for balance and how the arch in our foot functions. So this little toe spacer, very simple, but just helps you reclaim that sort of natural alignment. This is probably one of my favorite tools is like a hacky sack or a foot bag, which most people are familiar with. But this is actually an amazing tool to, if you just imagine my hand as a foot, to actually develop that dexterity of the toes and to actively splay.
Oh my goodness. Can your toes do that?
They can. I can show you.
I've got to see that. I know that. I know this is really awkward because you are sitting in a chair in front of a computer, but I've got to see that.
I'm sitting on the ground, which is another really great practice for developing mobility. But yes, just grabbing the hacky sack like that, and you can do that with a pair of socks or something similar. But that's actually a really great way to train the muscles, the intrinsic muscles of the feet. And then you can do, we've got a whole system of how to use these, but different exercises like that to challenge your balance. So one foot is balancing while the other foot is grabbing and placing. So there's an amazing amount of ways that you can use that little simple tool.
This is taking my brushing my teeth standing on one foot to a whole new level, I have to say. That's something we learned very, very early on in the Aging Project was just to get our balance, obviously a really important part of aging well. And this is, it's got to step up. Yeah. This is almost like patting your head, rubbing your tummy, wiggling your toes. You've got it, this is great dexterity for us all. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And it's sort of, I like bang for your buck things. If you can do multiple things at once, like you can train your feet, you can train your balance, you can, get your brain working, and it's an all-in-one kind of thing. You don't have to do them all separately. But then a step up, I suppose, if you are really wanting to step up the balance aspect, is we've got this product called the Soulmate. Mine's a little bit dirty because I've been using it, but Soulmate, and basically it's a cork roller that splits in half. And then that half dome is actually surprisingly tough to balance on because our feet aren't supposed to just balance on flat, level ground. Like if you look at nature, it's not that common for all your ground to be flat and level. There's going to be roots and logs and rocks and things that will sort of force your feet to balance on something that isn't flat. And so, again, to demonstrate, you would just put that down and you can do all the same things. We've got a whole system of how to sort of train on the Soulmate. You can balance on it like that, balance on it like that. You can also mobilize your toes. So don't have to go through all of it, but it just gives you a little something other than flat ground to work your feet on, and much more challenging for balance. and also feels quite nice on the feet as well. Within that, another one of my favorite practices is just to roll your feet out. So there's this mini cork roller that comes inside the Soulmate, like a little babushka doll. But that cork roller, you just roll the bottom of your feet out, and that is a crazy good massage.
Oh, I can feel that through the screen. That's fantastic.
So it's kind of like a hurt so good feeling, but it just gets right into the muscles all the way through. And those muscles, at first they can be very, very tender. And another item we've got is a cork ball, and that gets even deeper into your feet. And they can be very, very tender, but over time it'll just start to feel good. And that, I like to sort of see that as the brushing your teeth for your feet, because like I said, they need that deep pressure and that texture in order for all the joints to be healthy in the foot.
I've got that one here.
Oh yeah, perfect.
And I use it when I am podcasting. I put my toe separators on, and I've got them. I know this will go up on YouTube. That'll be lovely. There.
Nice.
And then I put my little roller down there, and there you go. You can do your exercises at the same time as you work. So even if you're not ready to go out there in the wild with your feet on open display for the world to see, you can do it in the safety of your own home under your desk.
Exactly. The last one I didn't mention is, this was actually where we started, was with balance beams. So that's just like a long piece of dowel, very simple. You could make it yourself, and a lot of people do, which is great. But that's just like the more advanced, like the more narrow it gets, the harder it is on your feet, the harder it is on your balance. So the way we think about it is, we don't want foot exercises to be boring and just, a lot of the classic exercises are just like toe scrunches and things like that. We want the exercise to be fun and engaging, and we're very big on making it play-based, because there's a really great quote actually that I think is very relevant to healthy aging. But we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And that's a quote from George Bernard Shaw. But it's one of my favorites, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm getting older. I shouldn't be playing with movement. I shouldn't be down at the park necessarily. But I think if you never stop playing, then it actually keeps you young and healthy. And there's good research and science behind it too, but it just sort of makes sense intuitively as well.
James, is there sort of a common complaint that women particularly come to you with regarding their feet?
Yeah, the most common one would be plantar fasciitis. And that's an interesting one, because it's the most common treatment is to support the foot more. And the pathophysiology, or why it happens, can get pretty deep, and there's a number of different reasons. But mostly the foot needs more strength, more mobility, especially through the toes, and better splay through the foot. But a lot of that gets missed when you just focus on support and cushioning more, and it turns into this cycle of, your foot hurts, let's support it more, let's add more cushioning, and then that feels better for 6 months, a year, and then now it hurts again, so let's do more support, more cushioning. Whereas a lot of our clients, and one in particular I can think of, who was a customer first, she bought our kits, and she had 20 years of plantar fasciitis pain, and had been in that cycle of sort of more and more support, and just never actually solving the root cause. She bought our kit, and it's not an overnight fix by any means, but over a matter of months, she started to notice the difference, and then she eventually completely eliminated her plantar fasciitis. And she's since started working with me for individual one-on-one physio sessions, just to resolve a little bit of calf tightness that was still there. But the last session I had with her, she told me she went for this big 12-kilometer beach walk through the hinterland and in her barefoot shoes, and she, felt completely fine, no plantar fasciitis, barely any calf tightness. And it's often the simplest approaches and the simplest things can make the biggest difference, but it just takes time, it takes consistency, and it takes effort. But it's definitely worth it in the long run, because nothing else can really help your function and your pain other than actually just training and working your body to improve.
So great. Everyone, kick off your Uggies, kick off your thongs, kick off your Frankies, get your feet out there, put them on display. Thank you so much, James. Awesome chatting to you today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.